Hi everybody! Tomorrow is my birthday. I will be 65, and I thought it would be appropriate to share with you some information about gardening as you get older. Probably the most important thing is your tools, and your most important tool is you. So take good care of it. Keep in shape as much as you can. Before you head out to the garden, it's a good idea to do some stretching exercises because you could end up finding yourself out there for hours and lose track of time. It's not hard to do. Vary up the activities that you do. Don't do weeding for a long period of time. Weed for a little bit and then go on to something else. Also, as far as tools are concerned, there are what they call ergonomic tools. There's tools that make it easier on your back or your wrist or your hands. My hands tend to cramp up sometimes. I will show you a picture of ones I have at work. So this is one of the ergonomic tools that I mentioned. You can see the difference between how this tool and what I would normally use would work. So with this one, you'd be holding it like this to use it. For this one, you'd be holding it like this, which is at first kind of uncomfortable, but actually it's easier on your hands. So if you have arthritic hands, you might want to go with something like this. And they are available. Just got to take a look. And there's also things that you can buy to add on to your existing tools. So there's like handles you could put on your rake. So instead of holding your rake like this, or your hoe or whatever it is, you could hold it like this. You put a handle on here and a handle on there, and now you're doing this instead of this. And it might be easier on your back, especially if you're digging in or tilling in. And I'm going to show you one tool that my husband swears by. I'll put a picture of it here because he must have it up in the garden. We have it's called the Cobra. They did send it to me a few years ago in order to test it out, and I wrote a blog post about it, and I'll link that below. But that's not why I'm talking about it today. My husband's been doing most of the weeding, and he just uses this tool constantly, especially the long-handled version. He can just do the weeding as he walks by in our pathways. They gave it to me for a couple minutes. This is the Cobra tool. It's the long-handled version. So you can see I'm like 5'4", it's almost as tall as me. And that's his favorite gardening tool. Another thing you can do is to bring the garden up to you. It gets more difficult to bend over or to kneel. There are benches you can buy that you can sit on them and get down closer, but you can also turn them over and kneel. But we prefer to bring the garden up to us as much as possible. So we have built a number of raised beds, which I have shown in other videos. They're not what they call a belly button high. They're not that tall, but they're close to 3 feet tall, 2.5 to 3 feet tall. And it really just makes everything so much easier. The bending especially gets hard for me. We do a lot of vertical gardening by growing in containers. You can see some here behind me. We have, that's a North Georgia candy roaster, squash growing up. So instead of having to bend down to the garden to take care of it, we can just take care of it as it grows up. The corn we planted did not have to get down on the ground. It was simple enough. You can see the seeds. So drop the seeds, and then I just used a dowel to push them in. The same thing with the squash seeds. Just use a dowel to push them in. And with the sunflower seeds, I just scattered them and used a long-handled rake to cover them over with soil. So all of this growing, I didn't have to get down on my knees to do anything, and he uses the Cobra to weed it as necessary. There's nothing wrong with downsizing your garden. I'll put a link to that post that I wrote about that. We did that a few years ago too. Now that there's only 2 of us in the house, we don't need as much fruits and vegetables as we did in previous years when we were feeding more of a family. Another suggestion I would have is to think about the kind of seeds you want. I mean, heirlooms are wonderful. I love open pollinated plants because you just save the seeds from year to year. But I have started growing more hybrids, which is a natural cross between 2 plants that are in the same family. So this kind of tomato and that kind of tomato. And the reason why I have is because they tend to be more disease resistant and often pest resistant. So my time that I'm putting into it and my energy and effort that I'm putting into it, I'm getting a better return with some of the hybrid seeds. So these are just a few things to consider as you get older. My dad is 97. He still gardens. He gardens mostly at ground level. He told me where he used to, garden for hours. So did I. Now he'll garden for maybe 15 minutes and then rest for half an hour, 45 minutes, and go back out. His garden beds are beautiful. He plants ornamentals. He says growing food is farming, not gardening. I beg to differ. But to me, if you can eat it, and it looks, to me, a squash flower is absolutely beautiful. Maybe it's not as pretty as the lilies, but it's absolutely beautiful. So look into products, like I said, especially the ones Fiskars is putting some things out. That's a very well-known company to anybody that sews. They make garden tools now and adapters for our tools. There's a lot of stuff out there. The baby boomers, they call it from diapers to denim. Our generation changed every industry, and now we are gardening more, and we're retiring and spending more time in the garden. So the industry is adapting to our needs. So there's a lot of information out there. There's not a lot of videos on it. I did find one put out by PBS that was on a symposium I think it was February of 2020. So you might be able to find that. If I find the link, I'll put that in the bottom too. It was a 45-minute long video, but it was actually really interesting and entertaining. Thanks for watching.